You're on mute, Sudit.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our weekly Wednesday. It's good to be back. Hope you're all staying safe. And if you don't want to be recorded or your face showing in screen grabs, just mute your video. And we did a whole series on our weekly Wednesday about artificial intelligence and digital twins, a lot on AV data and the whole autonomous vehicle ecosystem. Thanks to Mr. Verga and David Kerrigan for doing these amazing courses with me on Driverless World School. So now with September, we're starting this new topic of artificial intelligence. And AI is a huge topic, but I'm getting ready to teach AI as Artificial Intelligence Bootcamp for product and business managers at Stanford Continuing Studies. And because of the COVID times, it's all going to be online. I just wanted to see who else is here. Okay, awesome. So thank you for joining me. So specifically today, we are going to be talking about AI product management. What does it mean to build AI products? Okay, I hear my own self somewhere from YouTube. Okay. So if you hear any echo, please tell me, guys. Otherwise, we're ready to go. Okay. And as always, what I have done is I have put this on under Career Pivot on Driverless World School, which is where most of you signed up. And so you should be able to go straight there. So I'm going to share my screen there and start with a lovely video. Okay. This is Career Pivot on Driverless World School. And this is where you would have signed up, or you can tell your friends to sign up. Okay. So I put this called September Artificial Intelligence Building Products and AI Business and AI Jobs, because that's the topic we're going to be covering. So in here, I will also have the archive of today's video in there. But for now, I want to start with this whole brain car, because you must have seen the Tesla presentation on this Neuralink. Are you able to see my YouTube in here? I'm actually going to forward this back. This is the brain cap. This has nothing to do with Tesla. This is the brain-computer interface work that's been going on in the works. And you must have seen the Tesla presentation about 3 little pigs and capturing their brain waves and thoughts. Or it was actually connected, it was just tracking the limb movement in there. It was very, very rudimentary. But I just remembered reaction of my audience when I spoke about this on how Nissan was testing this. So this is a simulator. So this person is wearing that brain cap and is testing a simulator. And then they take it to the road. That's the part that I'm going forward. So the idea is this person's thoughts are captured to drive the vehicle autonomously. Is it still in a simulator? Okay, so here is when it gets interesting. So you can see here the driver is actually navigating, but the brain cap is going to control the acceleration and stopping of the vehicle, the brakes. And so the drive-by-wire piece is going to be controlled by the thoughts of this person. That's the thinking behind this. Okay. So I want to pause that and come back. Any thoughts, comments? Because I don't want to make this about the brain-computer interface, because my personal take on this is there is an application there and you would see all the good use cases, but it is loaded with privacy invasion, and it's very, very, very early stages in what Tesla was showing, not in, I don't even know how much of that is real. But when we are talking about artificial intelligence, when we tend to hear about crazy applications, and it is always about a promise to help somebody. In this case, it could be robotic arms and robotic surgery, or it could be helping somebody. That's how this whole BrainCap project started in the initial stage. I see a comment from Jose. Thank you. So that was during a trip to Berlin, Germany. There is some progress over there with AVs. Yeah. Oh, this Jose was commenting on the picture. I was actually commenting on Jose's profile picture. Thank you. I thought you were talking about the brain cap. So when we talk about AI, I actually wanted to start with this, not because of my excitement for BCI, because I don't have an excitement for BCI, but it is good to ground ourselves in perspective that today AI is everything. AI means a lot of different things. We hear about AI in crazy situations like the brain cap example that we are seeing. And the reality of AI is kind of boring. It's a lot of machine learning, lot of data, working with existing infrastructure, existing process infrastructure. And so there's a lot of possibilities. So if looking at something like this excites you to get involved and get into an area of AI, that's awesome. But if it is going to be something like this, that you're going to go make something like this, is what your hopes and dreams are, then I would want you to think about AI ethics and the role of data and privacy, and even the ethics of what you're going to unleash, not the use case that you're creating. So as we are discussing AI product management today specifically, you have a lot of responsibility in what you're going to be building, not just in what you're building in your current scope, but what is possible. And so I see product managers as visionaries who actually have this power, especially when they become AI product managers. Okay, so if you have any comment or suggestions or any thoughts on this, you can type away and we can answer questions or discuss that. Otherwise, I am going to go look at a deck that I put together for you. And what I have done is I'm not sharing the screen yet. I have, as I showed the previous video, I've actually posted under Career Pivot on DriverlessWorldSchool. And I've already posted today's deck also there if you want to look at it or download it already, right? I have a PDF of that. I'm going to go share that right now so we can get started. I always feel thankful to David Kerrigan for helping me just think about this in a more structured way, because he advised me to have a deck for my presentations, which is super helpful. And so that helps us to just, stay focused on what we are going to be talking about today. Okay. Just give me a minute. I thought my slide deck was ready. And I have a question for you. How many of you are actually working in the area of product management? Just because I'm talking about product management doesn't mean that you have to be working in product management. So I was curious, is that the area you're working on, or is there something else that you're working on in the field of AI? Or are you just aspiring to be in the field of AI? Yeah. Everybody's so quiet. Yeah, I see a comment. Basically, yes. Jonathan, I saw you came in first before everybody else. So you're a service designer. Awesome. So we will be looking at the AI technology stack today. And one of the things in there is design. So specifically today, I am going to be focusing on product management. And it's a complementary role to designers. And I have my student Consuelo here, who's a brilliant designer. Dr. Charles Ecom, who's a service designer. Hope you'll connect with him in here too, or you'll connect with Consuelo. She's also here. Okay. So Jacob is saying, I'm a founder or CTO of a business. So I guess that includes being a product manager. It's not in the realm of AI. Okay. So the most common thing is if you are building a technology company and you're a CTO, so I'm guessing that you're building the tech side of the business. So yes, you would think like a product manager, especially in the early stages of building out the business. But that actually raises a very interesting point, Jacob. What is an AI business and what is an AI product is important to know, because again, the role of product managers or AI product management is kind of evolving. It started out without much tools. I've had many engineers who took my class and wanted to understand the business side of AV or IoT and AI, and they end up becoming product managers. In fact, in my class, I'm going to be inviting two of my past students to come in and talk to the current class, and they are engineers who became product managers. And so they come with a very strong tech background, understanding the basics of tech, but with that product mindset. So question for you, how do you think an AI business is different from an AI product in a technology company? If you're building a technology company like Jacob, is AI business and AI product one and the same, or is there a relationship? Jose is saying, I'm responsible for product management for ICE vehicles, looking to learn from AVs. Yes. That's been our focus. That is still, a topic dear to my heart. Product management for autonomous vehicles. And I have many of my students who are kind of in that transition path. Does anybody else have a comment on, is AI business and AI product different or one and the same? Is there a relationship? You can give me a yes or no, or they're different. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm just curious to see what people are thinking. I see Susanna here. I was just talking about AI ethics. AI business. Good to see you, Manuel. So AI business can be used for non-AI products. True. Yep. So that raises a very important point. So when you're actually building a product, any product, it is always about a business outcome, right? You're trying to, you could be creating an experience. So that's where the whole interaction with designer comes in. And I'm getting into a philosophical realm of the PM world in here. So if you're an AI, if you're building, if you're in product management in general, you're looking to improve the experience for a customer. And in a practical sense in companies, unless you're starting afresh and say, I'm going to go build a mobility service to create this kind of experience, you're actually trying to drive a business outcome. You're saying, okay, I'm going to save. It might not be that black and white of I'm going to save this many dollars, then it becomes a growth area. It could be that I'm going to improve the life of, in this example of the brain cap, right? I'm going to save the disabled person to give them mobility. So it could be something like that. or it could be a specific business outcome that I'm going to increase the efficiency of this, like COVID testing. I'm going to increase the efficiency of these testings by 20%. So it could be very precise, very metric driven, or an aspiring improvement to a process or a experience, right? So so finally, a product is going to delight the customer. It is creating some kind of efficiency, a business outcome. And so that's where the business, whether it is an AI business, comes into picture. But an interesting difference that Emmanuel brought out is it doesn't have to be an AI product. It could be an AI business because it is fundamentally using AI in some form. But the product that you're building could be just optimizing a web flow, or it could be creating a kind of connected product, or it could be creating some kind of experience. Okay, I see a lot of comments in here. Pivoting, working on conversational AI, virtual assistant, sales and operations, pivoting to tech stack. Perfect. Happy to hear that. So under career pivots, you would see a lot of, I just call them career pivot webinars. So you'll have a series on career pivot to AI, career pivot to AV. There is even a path to AV. All of these are available right there, are past sessions under career pivot. That should help you, especially if you're not in product management today, but you're a business person and you want to start working with the tech stack or make that transition. I focus it not just on the technology and the ecosystem and the business side of things, but how it ties back to various job roles. And I'm a very big fan of the role of partnerships in an ecosystem. And you could be a business development manager who's actually going to build partnerships, but that role gets very tied to product management, because when you make a partnership across multiple companies, or it could be in a vehicle ecosystem, and tier ones and the OEMs are building partnerships, this transfer of data across the partners, and that becomes a very technical product. And so it is good to just know your role. It doesn't mean you could be doing product management, you could be doing a business unit function, you could be a design function, you could be doing business development, working in collaboration with product management. That is why product managers are called the CEO of the customer. And so it's important to know your role and what you can leverage. I'm very big fan of, you should leverage what you brought from your past experience. That's how you can make your career pivots and maintain your salary levels. I see a comment. I use a service design perspective because somebody needs to design beyond the product. There are processes that need to exist around product and technology. Well said, thank you. Charles and I call it AIX. Charles called it AIX design, where you use AI data feeds to actually design the experience, like voice or computer vision is a very hot one these days. Jacob says that sounds more like relationship where AI product manager focus on leveraging AI in the product. Exactly. Where AI business would create a product where AI isn't the only outcome of the business. So I would not even call AI as an outcome. AI is a tool in that sense, right? It could be, if you're looking at business outcome, you should look at the customer and what is the business outcome that you want to drive. Okay, so I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to go back to my deck, guys. Thank you for this conversation. And one of the things I like to do with this today is, if you are looking to, if you want to drive this conversation in a certain direction, I have this deck just to guide me on that. I don't need to be, focusing in that direction. So if you want to focus and go deeper into a specific area of this, because we are going to be talking about AI products for a long time. And so if you want to talk about that, I'm totally fine with that. So you can ask any questions away. Okay, so what I have at least planned for today is to talk about broadly what is AI to get us started, and then go into who actually builds a product in the company. So we already got into some of that discussion, right? So we said AI product manager, somebody aspiring to be a product manager, then saying it's business outcome, and luckily we have some designers in the house today. So who actually builds AI? So that's the second topic. So what is AI? So we get a common starting point. What is the who actually builds AI products, and AI who owns AI in an enterprise, um, and then I want to get into the crux of AI product management. And I just posted that on LinkedIn this morning. So is it about lifecycle management? So when you're building AI, saying you're building a machine learning product, the other day I saw this Waymo car while back pre-COVID in Mountain View, and it was not the usual Waymo vehicle, but it was a different one from Waymo Engineering. It was driving through Castro. So essentially, what I saw was live a new version of the Waymo AI being tested right in front of me. So it got me thinking. So when they go back, they're going to have a different version that they're testing, and they're collecting data, and they're going to go back and improve this. Then they have a production version that is running in all the other cars. So how are they managing the versioning? How are they managing the life cycle management while they branch out the inference model, that software, and start working on this new version that they're testing, and they're collecting data? There could be collaboration, and another team could have done another version of it. So it gets like a software lifecycle question. So is there a difference between the AI lifecycle and the software lifecycle? Is there a difference? So that's the third part I want to focus on, and I don't know whether we'll have more time past that, and then we can pick up. But you don't need to wait for that. You can just type away. So I'm mostly interested in how AI engineers can collaborate effectively with people across the business. Beautiful. How to communicate the possibilities and limitations of AI technology to people who don't have a technical background, and also whether anyone has encountered any difficulties with this. I actually had an hour-long discussion the last time I taught this the AI bootcamp. So it's called Artificial Intelligence Bootcamp for Product and Business Managers on Stanford Continuing Studies. And I know many of you are coming from different time zones. Unfortunately, Stanford has decided to stick with the 7 to 9 p.m. Evening time, which is when our classes were, because we were going to do this in person and then switch to online. So it's going to be like late night, midnight, I think past midnight in Europe. But if it works your time zone, you're welcome to join the class. So we had this discussion about this whole thing of, the various different roles. And Jonathan, you were talking about the role of the AI engineer and working with everybody else. I've heard this on about data scientists, because when you're building a model and you've got the training data and you've built a model, and then now you send it to production, and you say, and the way you do that is you kind of build a product around it, minimum viable product, and then you get it out to the customers, get feedback. Now what happens? Then it takes a life of its own, and the customer gives a certain feedback. Based on that, you want to adapt and change, you want to build the model. So I actually want to give credit where credit is due. Last time in the Stanford class, I had invited my past student, Mamta Narayan, who's a product management leader in the AI space. And she put this brilliantly, that when you're a machine learning engineer, when you're a data scientist, you're looking at the performance of the algorithm. So you're basically saying, okay, I built this model, and the performance is usually defined by degree of confidence, right? Statistical confidence. So you say, oh, I have 70% confidence that when you feed data, this gives you the right right outcome, right answer, right? So it could be looking at an X-ray, or it could look at a COVID test and give you whether the person has COVID or not. And it says it has 90%, 70% confidence. In healthcare, that's not acceptable. And if you're looking this in retail and you're giving a recommendation engine, and I'm sitting at home and I'm ordering delivery, and it says, oh, you're buying this item, do you want to buy this other item? A 70% confidence might be acceptable, but it goes back to the business outcome, because a business, whoever is responsible for this business is going to say, I want better conversion. I want to get 10% more conversion. I want to get 20% more customer engagement. And based on that, even at a 70% efficiency, you might get the recommendation algorithm or the best match algorithm to actually do its job. So that is an area of discussion that happens between the engineers and the data scientists and the business unit people. The product manager has to navigate that, because you're building the product in an iterative fashion and you're driving this conversation. So you work with the BU and say, okay, we'll drive better business outcome. We've done it, but you go back to the data scientist and the ML engineers and say, looks like you've got only 70% degree of confidence, and you're still doing a brilliant job because it already is driving business outcome. So how about if we improve this even further? That is where all of you who are not exactly in product management, who are already not in AI, come into the picture, and you have the opportunity to move in this space, because domain knowledge, your business acumen in that space becomes very important. And you would know, this is what has historically happened. This is what happens in this particular retail segment. This is what happens when you look at a specific X-ray. You would know what kind of training data is needed and how to fill those gaps. And you can help improve the efficiency. So that is the relationship of working back again with the data scientists to improve the efficiency. So that becomes a conversation. So one of the questions that comes is then, how do you get buy-in to go even build this product, because it is going to be probabilistic. So how many of you have seen that, where you can apply facial recognition or use voice or just build a machine learning algorithm, and you can drive business outcome, but you have nothing to prove to start off with. And you have to make that case to management and say, let's go build this as an AI product. And especially if you're a startup person, you're going to be doing that, saying, okay, I'm going to go bet on this and build a product. And you need to actually get customers who would actually feed data into that to prove that it's driving business outcome. And you have to validate that. So you spend a lot of time validating that. And so getting that buy-in, getting the budget for it to start building the product becomes another skill that, again, is a skill of the product manager, I would say. But it's possible that like I think Emmanuel was saying, it doesn't have to be an AI product. If you're looking at the business outcome and you're able to convince that you're going to drive business outcome and you can show that, then you go off, build the product, and it happens to be an AI product. This is great. Or you expand into multiple other applications of AI. And that could be another thing. So again, I love the example of the car. So I go back to that. So a lot of vehicles are becoming connected and not yet autonomous. And so when I talk about autonomous vehicles, I actually bundle it and say connected and autonomous vehicles. And it might be just by adding connectivity, you get access to data. By adding connectivity, you get mobility of data. Now you can integrate that data with another data source, and it drives better business outcome in context for the customer somewhere else. And then eventually you get to an autonomous place. So you don't say, I'm going to create $1 billion business, it's going to be an autonomous vehicle. You say, I'm going to drive business outcome and create efficiency for our dealers, or we are going to create fuel efficiency, and let's make this a connected product. And then eventually, when it becomes autonomous, then it's going to improve the efficiency even more. Okay. So I promised to share the deck, and I never did, since you all had so many questions on this. So I'm going to go back to the career pivot, where I already have the deck for you. So bear with me. So I'm going back to the curriculum section in there, and I'm not yet shared the screen, guys. I'm aware of that. Okay. Okay. Just a minute. Okay, now I'm going to share the screen. Okay. So is there an AI area that you would like to work in when you're talking about AI? That's the thing with AI, because it means different things to different people. So is there a specific AI area that is interesting for you, or you're thinking about that when you're talking to me about this? Okay, this is the deck that's already there. It's downloadable, so feel free. Yeah. Okay, so gonna skip through. So this is the video we saw about, AI brain cap from Nissan. So artificial intelligence means different things to different people. Okay, since you already are familiar with it, I'm going to skip through that. But I wanted to share this. My friend Dave Weineke shared this on Twitter um, about how what is an anatomy of AI, comparing with the brain, especially once we start talking about brain cap and stuff. It's kind of funny to see that. But this just basically takes the human brain and says, this is computer vision, this is voice recognition, this is machine learning, to mapping to different parts of the brain. And then I actually replied with this picture, which I shared from Barcelona Technology School when I did a presentation about what is AI to a group of lawyers about what are the different technologies behind a robot, which is exactly what it is, right? It's deep learning. It's like the brain of the device. You could apply that to a variety of IoT. The movement is the basic robotics. The text to speech is hearing, computer vision is the sight, facial recognition is recognizing people, natural language processing is understanding context of speech, and so on. So I just wanted to share this just to get us to the same starting point. When I talk artificial intelligence, I'm usually thinking machine learning, because that's the general prevalence of AI out in the world. But when you hear about, sensationalized news like brain-computer interface or things like that, you'll hear a lot about uh, speech, you'll hear about voice in the car, or you'll hear about voice assistants or facial recognition. A lot of controversy is always around these, because each of these have different adoption life cycle. And I believe facial recognition is here to stay, but we are not quite ready for it because of all the ethical and data privacy invasion issues involved. Okay. But when I'm talking about AI product management, it could be any and all of this, because the common theme is you're going to build a product to drive a business outcome, and you have various different roles working together in the company, or if you're building a startup. And this is my favorite revised version of Machine Intelligence 3.0, thanks to Siobhan Zillis. You can see her name at the bottom here. I have shared a version of this. If you've taken my IoT course many years back, you would have seen a 1.0 version of this one, which actually puts this in context as it's evolving into multiple different areas of business. There are multiple companies. So it's good to know the names of the companies or areas of business so that it ties back. So if you come from a logistics business background, if you come from an agriculture background, education background, it just helps to put these things in perspective. And every part of enterprise is impacted by that. But the new addition that she has done is this whole technology stack that's intriguing, right? So that also you can see in perspective whether, because the whole world of AI is evolving. So there are a lot of technology companies who are building some kind of tool or technology, and they are calling it an AI platform. And it could be just managing, the AI life cycle. And it's good to go through this to just get again in perspective. Is it a tool that is going to help you build another technology product? Is it going to help manage the product development cycle inside a company? Is it going to create visualization? All kinds of things. So based on that, it is important for you, if you're going to especially move into a job in that area, to become familiar with those tools, or it might be an opportunity to work with these companies to help develop their products further, because you need the business acumen into this industry. And that's where your place comes in. I'm going to stop the thing and see what the comment is, because I could not see that at the same time. Jonathan says, I'm also a Tesla shareholder, so I'm keeping track of the AV tech development. I'm a Tesla shareholder too, and I would say AV development is much bigger done by the AV trucks these days. So if you're looking for the AV space, I would say look at a whole bunch of truck companies who are all making it more autonomous, because that's a much more faster scaling business. But the AV business in general is promising. So again, I know the Tesla shares jumped up, with the whole BCI 3PIG demo, but that's why it goes up and down. So it's one as a promise that investors invest in. But I am very big on looking at your role, what you're going to do to just shape that business outcome for you to pivot your careers to that. Excited to see the AV trucks too. Yeah, I've not heard about the Tesla Semi. That's true. It's taking so long. I've not heard about the Tesla Semi. I remember going for one of the shareholder Tesla days, and I saw the Semi, and after that there was nothing about it. And it's all been focused on, earlier it was about robotaxi, and that we're going to get robotaxis, and then all this other stuff going on. They didn't have enough batteries. Yeah, I think they're working to get that. Yeah. So especially we had this wildfire, and then there was PG&E cutting our power proactively for some time, and we were all talking about this. Okay, where are the batteries? So that's the thing when it comes to hardware, when it comes to the physical batteries that are needed. You need supplies, you need to build them, and it does take methodical time. Yeah. So I don't want to digress into a Tesla discussion. And it happens in my AV class. There are people who love Tesla or hate Tesla, and then just get into a discussion. So I'm hoping not to get into that with the AI topic, because there are a lot of players and we don't know who owns the space. So we spoke about what is AI, and we covered variety of AI from a technical perspective. So it would help for you if you're moving to the space, just see what you're passionate about. Are you interested in voice, natural language processing, general machine learning? Is it for a specific industry? Or just pick one that you're passionate about, where you believe you can solve a customer problem, and then go dig deeper on who are the players, what are the technology stack that's evolving. So there's so much to do to learn so that you can move into this space. Okay. So the next thing I said is, who builds AI products in the company? So question for you. And I figured out to have my chat open at the same time, so you guys can tell me, who do you think is driving who's building products in the company? Who owns the AI in an enterprise? What are you seeing? Do you have any suggestions, comments? So Jacob has a question about the AV truck, and if somebody has an answer for that, you can answer that. He's talking about AV truck that is building other types of vehicles like garbage collection. Jacob, we had in our AV class, we had a whole bunch of discussion about autonomous vehicles for agriculture, mining. In fact, in oil and gas, there's AV beginning to be used. There's a whole, and I know there's a bunch of garbage collection also that is in the works. In fact, in the very first day when David Kerrigan introduced what is AV business, in our AV masterclass, he had this garbage collection as an example. So maybe David Kerrigan, and maybe you can connect with him and he can tell you who's working on AV garbage collection. Okay, So who builds AI products in the enterprise? What is your take? So this is what I found, that when they did a survey on who's actually building the AI in the enterprise, there were so many hands that went up. And if you see, it's kind of evenly spread, right from the top level execs to everybody in all different areas of business, right? One is different levels, different kind of roles. And they were all saying, I'm responsible, or this particular function is responsible. So AI is built based on data. I've spoken a lot about data, so I'm not going to go too much into data today because I want to keep the focus on product management. So if data is going to be the enabler of your business, and we spoke about business outcome as the key main driver to build your product, so you should look at where the data is flowing downstream, and then maybe you can build products around this. Maybe you can bring in AI to create efficiency around that. So there could be a whole data strategy aligned with your business strategy. So I'm going to leave it at that, unless somebody is like very hung up on just wanting to focus on data. We can pick up the topic and just talk about this role of data in the world of AI business another time. Okay, so when we say artificial intelligence, what is AI made of? So I already spoke about this. So again, I'm going to go through this to get to our lifecycle management topic, which is more interesting. So the different roles are needed in building an AI business, because you could be a business person who's bringing the data and the partnership, or you could be building the algorithm as the engineer or the data scientist doing the modeling. And you need to work together in an iterative fashion, and that's what builds out the AI business. So here I have a question, when do algorithms fail? This is actually a question for you guys. So I would like to see whether you've seen algorithms fail. Whether do you believe they fail or not? Do you think algorithms fail? Is it a bad thing when algorithms fail? So question is, when do algorithms fail? I know it's very open-ended, but I want to know, when you're working with an algorithm as a model, it could be self-driving car, it could be a COVID test, it could be the voice assistant, which doesn't understand what song I'm asking it to play. So when do algorithms fail? Do they fail? Have you seen them fail? It's important, because if you're building a product and it is based on an algorithm and you want to improve the performance, and if it fails, that can be a good thing for your customer or your business outcome, isn't it? So one comment I'm seeing is, when the data is bad, the goal is poorly defined. Very good point. Biased data, assumptions may not be correct, not enough learning before deployment. That's a fantastic point, Emmanuel. So yes, so the answer is algorithms fail all the time. So I put this up here, and the hot air balloon picture happens to be a coincidence, but it is important to know, when you're building an AI-based product and you're betting a business based on that business outcome based on an AI product, and it's built using algorithms, feeding data, modeling it is going to fail. There is never a finite done product. And especially if you're going to move into AI product management and you've been a product manager in a traditional software world, or if you're a business person and you're going to use an AI algorithm to drive your business outcome, there are going to be false positives, false negatives. The performance is never going to ever become 100%. It is always going to tend towards 100% and keep getting better and better. Even if your product is at 99% confidence and you try to go deploy to the customer, it could fail, because that could be that 1% situation. So it is important to know the business risk involved when you're betting your business on algorithms. And that's the important thing to know when you're building as a product manager, right? So this is like you're going to build a beautiful product and then you go to show a demo and it fails. It could be that one person. So it's important to bake that in to know what is the business risk, whether, especially self-driving cars, we hear about accidents all the time and you don't hear about when it is working well, and it's not deployed in production. It's not quite there where it is saving lives that we are betting on, but the times when it fails is the learning, and that AI is always learning. And so I think you have a very important role to understand that. And how do you mitigate that risk? Is that a risk that you cannot take? You don't want the car to be deployed and have a accident. So how do you manage that business risk? How do you manage the ethical risk? I think it's a very important consideration when you set out to go build products. Okay. So the final piece is, how do you build the AI product in a company? So here is an AI stack that is put together by CMU. They have this on this site. I've actually cited the source here. What they have is you can actually interactively click on each of these. Jonathan was talking about this whole design aspect and service design. So the human computer interface or the AI interaction, AIX design, that comes in this bucket. Full autonomy is when we're talking about level 5 and full automation. And it all comes down to data. So it might be that you might just have to do a massive data management because data is sitting in multiple silos and there's too much data, and there's cost of, moving the data, all those things. So what they've done in CMU is you click on each of this and they tell you who are the people working on these various different research related to that. And if you see, ethics is something that kind of covers all these areas, and it's important to know your responsibility before you unleash it out into the world. But I found this a very useful diagram to help understand the AI stack beyond just saying AI is a model and that model is deployed and it creates this kind of experience. And sometimes it might be invisible too. So we spoke briefly about, is the role of the product manager about AI lifecycle management. So essentially, the example I was telling you about the Waymo car and the production version versus the one that engineering was testing, I think they were testing for a new kind of LiDAR. I don't know. I don't have inside information to that, but it looked like they were having a newer kind of LiDAR on that vehicle. And so the AI lifecycle management is definitely a PM role today. And it is about, how do you manage this? So you build this model, and I'm going to get out of the self-driving car and give you a different example. Somebody help me with a different example. I gave a retail example or a healthcare example, self-driving car example. Give me something else. Could be that you're managing a prediction on a vehicle or a search algorithm, right? So when you got the model and you're building it to drive a business outcome, somebody could fork a version of it and go off and use the same AI model to solve a different problem, and they might build up on it and become a different product. So that collaboration happens in the enterprise. And the other number 3 is explainability. So how do you, especially in healthcare, or in insurance, when an AI makes a decision, there might be compliance issues, and you might have to say why a certain decision was made. And this is where it becomes today, when it is built in early stages, it's a black box. You don't know whether the data is biased, and so it gives an unfair outcome for certain population. And you need explainability to say why the AI made that decision, whether your data was inefficient, whether the data was biased, or whether there was some wrong assumption made because of the kind of data that you fed to the algorithm. So the general governance of managing the model, the collaboration that is required across multiple teams using the same model, and forking off and making different versions of it. So managing those versions and explainability are broadly the 4 buckets in AI lifecycle management. And when you see AI platforms today, most of them are products that are helping you manage the lifecycle AI lifecycle management. And another interesting field that is evolving because it is heavily built on data. So it's called ML Ops, which is basically how do you prepare the data, train the model, deploy it, and what do you do in terms of managing that data. And that aspect is ML Ops. And this picture is from Microsoft. In fact, right after our session today, I'm actually going to attend a webinar from Chavant on ML Ops on their product. And there's a whole bunch of companies who are all creating data management, ML Ops products. So if that topic is interesting, we can talk about it another week when we are building up on this whole building AI products. Okay. And if you have another vendor or anybody else that you're working with ML Ops, I would love to hear from you. And again, for a role of a product manager, it becomes important because as it is evolving to ML Ops, then it might not be the business unit who's working on it. It might be IT who's owning the data and wants to manage that efficiently and control who has access to specific kind of data. So it might not be available for you to build your model the way you want to drive the business outcome. So it goes back to the traditional IT versus OT friction within the companies. And so again, as a product manager, you have to navigate all that. So that becomes important for you to know what part is actually a more product management function, how much of it you're going to go work in with ML Ops. And that depends on the maturity of this whole data management in your company. So if it's a small company, you're not going to have a separate ML Ops, even called as ML Ops. You might have, if you're working with legacy data, then there is going to be systems which is already done by IT, and you're going to be developing that into ML Ops. Okay. So I always like to wrap up with the hottest areas of jobs, and we spoke about different job functions you're all coming from. Tell me if there's something that you focus on that I'm missing here, because you need all of this to go build this. We've been talking about building products. I spoke a lot about product management. In fact, my course is called the Artificial Intelligence Bootcamp for Product and Business Managers. And I call it bootcamp because I originally had it as a weekend-long course. Now it's going to be 5 weeks, weekly evenings. So it just becomes like a semester-long course. So we're going to have a project there. But there are going to be different roles in here. Okay. And how do you pivot? I already said this before. This is my favorite advice. Pick an area that you're passionate about. Could be a technology, pick up in an industry and figure out who's doing what, go deeper and have an opinion. And because your opinion matters, because you bring the domain expertise. Even if it is a tech area, even if you've worked on something similar, parallel, how you make the transition is how you bring your skills into this. So with that, I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions. This is the name of my Stanford course. I'm not expected to market this, but I wanted to tell you guys in case it works for your time zone. You'll be able to find it instead of searching for artificial intelligence. If you search by my name, you'll get to the course faster on Continuing Studies site. It's called Artificial Intelligence Bootcamp for Product and Business Managers, and I hope to see some of you there. And if you're not taking the course, if you're interested in the topic, we will continue this conversation on this whole AI track in this rest of this month in our Weekly Wednesday. So give me your suggestion if you're thinking about a specific topic in here. From what we spoke today, is there something that you would like for me to cover? That would be interesting. Sanjay saying AI in healthcare predicting cancer or patient healthcare, yes. So rest of it is our past comment on when an AI algorithm can fail. So any other questions, comments? So we're just getting started. I believe the class registration just got started some weeks back. And so, and I was out on vacation for 2 weeks, so I have not seen who has signed up or what has happened. So I heard from some people asking me to talk to them because I like to talk to all my students. If you've taken any of my courses on Driverless World School, you know that that is something that I do. So I believe that education is online, especially. It's not just about the courses. It's more about us helping each other. So tell me if you have any more questions, because I'm coming to the end of the hour. So hope this was useful. We spoke about what is AI, who's building AI in the enterprise, and AI product management, what is involved in building the product. And if you have one taker, there are so many different roles of people who are working together, so many different products, technology products that are being created by different companies. It's exciting because it is early stages to manage the product lifecycle, and the product management, the lifecycle management of the whole AI algorithm is a very important part of the technical aspect of product manager's role. But what driving business outcome, working with multiple stakeholders, getting buy-in at different stages, getting the right data, working with the right business person who will get you the data with the right business acumen. All of this falls under product management, and then it is branching out to go integrate with ML ops, as that is an exciting new field that's evolving. So with that, we are reaching the end of our hour. So if you have any questions, I see a question. A small query: why AI MBA are not coming when the business is getting so big? It's obvious that tech skill is very much required. What are your thoughts? So I'm seeing a lot of B schools offering various kind of AI courses. It's because there is no one thing called AI or one thing called AI business. I believe it will evolve, but right now they are covering a lot of these courses cover on the focus on data. So if you understand data, if you understand your role of working with data, bringing your business acumen, applying that to data, then you can go drive business outcomes. So a lot of these courses are focused on that. So I haven't seen an AI MBA course, but that's a very good point. Any other questions? And give me feedback, because we're starting this whole AI topic. So I want this to be useful for you. I don't want it to be some ambiguous, broad topic. And I brought in the deck, but I didn't share it for a while because you all had a lot of questions. So I wanted to see whether that was useful. And if you worked with me, and my students know, I love feedback. I think feedback is a gift. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. Stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you next week. And this video archive will go up on Driverless World School under Career Pivot. The deck is already there, and I will see you next week. Bye. Gonna stop my recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Sudha. Thank you, Sudha.
Thank you, guys. Okay, I'm just going to go check on the going to go check on the YouTube before I switch it off. I love the questions, everybody. Thank you. Consuela, I saw your question. It was a private message, so I'm going to answer it offline. Thank you. So what I'm doing is I'm just checking whether the YouTube is going through. The YouTube is still going on.
Thank you, Suha.
Thank you, Alexander. I look forward to our call later this week.
Yes, on Friday. See you on Friday, okay?
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye. I'm just checking the whole thing on YouTube before I turn it off, because there's a lag between Zoom and YouTube streaming, so I'm letting it run for a little bit. Okay. Bye, everybody.